Good afternoon, everyone. This is Karen Main with Mass Matters, Chapter 10 this week. And today's chapter is Heard Any Good Homilies Lately? So there's a little bit of sarcasm that's kind of happening in this chapter as well. But they really talk about the fact that we do realize that poor preaching many times ranks way up when people are disenchanted with the Catholic Church. Usually the two elements that people will comment first on why they may go to church is good preaching or good music. Many times that even ranks above coming and receiving the Eucharist, because these are things that speak to them throughout Mass. One of the differences that they point out between the Protestants and the Catholics is that good preaching is an essential factor in ordaining ministers in the Protestant Church. And in the Catholic Church, good ritual is the essential factor when ordaining priests. So the focal point in Protestant churches is the pulpit, while in the Catholic Church, the focus is on the altar. So a little bit of difference going on there, but we also have to recognize that in recent years, the quality of priests that especially, I can't speak for other dioceses, but especially for the Green Bay Diocese, has been nothing but exceptional. I think when we were back in a huge surge of priests in the 60s and the 70s, right after Vatican II, multitudes of men came into the priesthood. And I really think that there was a surge of priests coming in, and there really wasn't the quality factor taken into the way it is now. These gentlemen today really are on a discernment path. They're really watched. They really take the time for this discernment, and a lot more goes into the quality factor of what we get at the end. Along with that, besides just the ritual, we are really turning out wonderful preachers. I think we'd have to admit that, Father Michael, Father Matthew, who were our more two recent young men coming into the priesthood, have just been fantastic, along with our Michael Thiel from our parish, who was ordained a few years ago. So much time and energy is now being put into the area of preaching so that they can carry messages to their parishes and be able to do it on a very organic level as well. We know that bad, boring, dreadful preaching really does starve the church. So just to give you a little bit of that information about times are changing, formation is changing, and I want to say that right along with the study of ritual is the study of homiletics to really make our upcoming priests really good preachers. Besides the priests, we are very fortunate that we also have 3 ordained deacons in our parish. And each of our deacons carries a very unique personality and a very unique preaching style. And all 3 of them are equally just really fabulous with the messages that they deliver. So we technically, at any point in time, have 5 ordained people within our parish that can deliver homilies. They do focus a little bit as well on the foreign priest. And for those of you that aren't aware, I was totally unaware that in the Green Bay Diocese at the current time, we have about 25 foreign priests from many different countries, primarily India, Africa, and I'm not even getting all the countries, but anyway, you get the idea. We have been very untouched by this until last November when Father Anil came to be part of our staff. And I know how difficult it is for us sometimes because we hear our dialect so clearly to take on the dialect of a foreign priest. I do have to say, hats off to Father Anil. If you have not had a chance to meet him, I know that he will be moving to a new parish soon, but please stop and greet and meet and thank him for his time. These foreign priests are very humble. They come to us because our diocese is asking, almost begging for foreign priests to come so that we can avoid having more church closures and that we can continue to provide sacramental work to so many parishes. Think about that for a second. You are asked to move away from your homeland. You are asked to move to a foreign country where, yes, you have studied the language as a second language, but to really live in a culture, move to a culture and speak a language that you have never lived in before, extremely difficult. Moving from a country such as India, from a USA to India, think of the distance. Think of leaving your country for the first time ever and moving to a foreign country because you've said yes to assisting another country with sacramental work. That's exactly what Father Anil has done in his journey, and it's an amazing story. I can't believe the courage, the faith, the dedication to his calling as a priest, not only to do so within his own native country, but to extend that for many years to a country such as ours. And how difficult the barriers you cross. He's had to learn how to function in a culture that he is not familiar with. He had to learn how to drive and to get a driver's license, to follow the roads, laws, the signs, figure out what all of these signs and symbols mean in our culture. Even just the culture of, women and men and the different races within our country and the political things going on within our country are so very different. So before we judge the foreign priests and say that we don't want them or we don't need them, the truth is we do need them. And part of the problem is that they are here on a limited time basis to assist where necessary within any given diocese. And the problem is that, unfortunately, within so many years, they do go back to their own countries. So it's very difficult, besides speaking and preaching and doing Mass and doing sacramental work with the community. Leadership is very, very hard because they are here such a limited time with any given parish. It's hard to take on that real leadership role and vision within parishes. So if you haven't stopped to think about that, I know I needed to really readjust my thinking regarding foreign priests and why do we need them. We do need them. We are 25 plus priests short in our diocese, and the critical time is upon us. So please, next time, please let Father Anil know how grateful you are for his dedication to his faith and to our diocese and for his calling to say yes. It also stretches the chapter a little bit in saying when we get into a crisis, at some point will the Catholic Church open up any type of conversation regarding perhaps the deacons preaching more. And again, we are very blessed with 3, which is very, very helpful to us. Also, what about the laity? I know right now the laity is not allowed to preach within the Mass at this point in time. But as time moves on, can we open up conversation for perhaps laity to be able to preach? What about, could we dream that maybe someday women would be able to be deacons? Once a woman would be able to be a deacon, that is another outlet as an ordained person to be able to preach. So, and what about the third possibility, which is a very far stretch, that maybe perhaps priests might be able to be married at some point in time? These are all solutions that we know this. We have good ministers and good preachers in our Presbyterian brothers and sisters in their faith. And at this time, the Catholic Church does not allow that. But would we as a church be able to possibly open up conversation to be able to provide real solutions to some of the problems that are harboring our faith? Just want to give you a little bit of history before I close this chapter, that taking us back probably more to a pre-Vatican mindset, is that especially I know as my parents were growing up, and as today we are taught, we are a one holy Catholic apostolic church, and at one point indefectible, operates according to Pope Boniface VII's dictum, outside the church there is no salvation. That you were really taught at one time that you need to go to church no matter what you find within your church. That there was very strong social pressure, fear of hell, the church billed as one true church, and those assumptions really feared people into attending Mass and liturgy within their parish, no matter what they found there. Preachers at some points, we know that there have been very ineffective preachers, or very preachers that have behaved very badly with some of the things that have happened. So people sometimes were really leery. Is your pastor a shepherd or is he a wolf? And that can really cause a lot of harm within a community. And that in order to be saved, you needed to be a churchgoer. And the church had a monopoly on all salvation. And the laity needed its rituals and sacraments to make that happen. So we have come a long way, people, in the last 50 years. Even though sometimes we feel like we're sort of stuck and we're maybe out of time with things, we are a moving faith. We are a faith who is becoming more educated. We're becoming more empowered. We are seeing that our lay ministry is taking on more Bible study and more study of their faith, so that the laity can really have a better understanding, and laity can help to lead parishes, because priests can only do so much. They're stretched so thin. Besides preparing Sunday liturgies, they're out anointing the sick. They're meeting with staff. They're running parishes. They're running school systems. They have a very, very full plate. So sometimes if we don't necessarily hear the best message on a Sunday, please step back and really understand that the commitment of priests and people who deliver homilies, whether it be the deacons or the ordained priest at this point in our time, are stretched very thin. That is not the only thing that they focus on in the week. They also have weddings, they have funerals, they have all kinds of other commitments. And they do the very best they can through the gift of the Holy Spirit to prepare us with homilies each week. We have even gone an extra step and said that with Father Anil and our foreign priest, we print his homilies so that if people have a little bit of a hard time following that, you can follow along in written format, the words that he's saying, so that you can attain full meaning. So this week, I leave you with a couple questions. How would you rate your parish preaching in general? Do you praise your priest or deacon when his preaching is good? Do you encourage them when it's even less so? What do you think of the suggestions for dealing with our hard to understand foreign priests? And would you be open to lay people preaching, which is not an option for us at this time, but why or why not? Thank you for your time. That is this week's message. Mass Matters. Bye, everybody.